It's time for a fragrance review, trying to keep my channel active, so I want to get back into this basically. Today I'm going to do Back to Black Aphrodisac from the house of by Kilian. For me personally, this is probably one of the three more interesting scents that I've smelled from that house. And I know on YouTube it's probably, in just the fragrance community in general, it's possibly the most hyped up fragrance. Excuse me, it's known as a really sexy scent. Basically, people consider it again an aphrodisiac. Actually, it's a unisex fragrance. Both girls and guys can definitely wear it. I know some people consider it a little more girly, but I think that's basically just because if something is marketed as a unisex fragrance and it's like sweet and gourmand, I think people just you're gonna get the stereotype that it's a little more girly than manly, but so, until there's like a beefcake fragrance that smells like steak, that's probably just a stereotype you're gonna have to live with. But again, I don't think it's particularly any more girly really than manly. I think dudes can, it's definitely unisex, unlike say maybe Love, which is definitely way more feminine than manly. But okay, I'm gonna get into this fragrance and try to tell you what I get out of it, and maybe my impressions are a little bit different than other people have had. And this has a lot of notes in it, okay? And I definitely have trouble picking it up because there's a overwhelming honey note in this basically throughout the whole fragrance. I would basically, I guess for a fun way to imagine this fragrance, I would try to imagine yourself walking through a forest basically, okay? And imagine you get to, maybe it's a forest owned by Winnie the Pooh. I don't know, right? Imagine you're walking in this forest and you get to a lake of just pure golden honey, really thick honey, right? And all the other notes in this fragrance are going to be at the bottom of this lake, okay? And so to get to these notes, you got to swim to the bottom of this lake. And let's just say you're going to be, for me personally, you're going to be swimming in this lake for a good 5 to 6 hours, right? Just drenched in honey. And every time you get to the bottom and you pick up some more of the notes at the bottom, you're taking the notes out of the bottom, right? And some notes you get a little more than others. Maybe the raspberry, you know what I mean? Maybe that almond cherry, some of the tobacco kind of thing, you know what I mean? But some of the notes are almost indistinguishable because the honey is so strong. And I'd also like to point out every now and then when you're picking out these notes that are now drenched in honey, basically, you're also getting some of the dirt from the bottom of that, lake or river or whatever you want to call it. And I'll get into what I mean by that dirt because I'm not sure of a good way to describe it, okay? But I'll get to that in a bit. And so after you get out of the lake, and let's say you've been swimming for 5 to 6 hours, at least on my skin, right? And that's not that the honey doesn't last throughout the full fragrance, but then after that 5 to 6 hours, you get out because you're just tired of swimming. You can't hold your breath any longer. I don't know. You basically the only thing you have to wipe yourself off with is now baby wipes. And so this is kind of strange because I think it's actually much more fresher at the end of the fragrance, which is usually a little different. So you're basically wiping off all the honey, and you can still smell the honey, but now the baby wipes, that baby wipe smell is now like competing with the honey. So you're wiping off some of the honey, so you can get some of the notes a little bit more, but you're now getting that baby wipe smell as well that is also going to cover some of the notes that are remaining at the bottom, basically. So that's the fun way to describe it, basically. And so again, speaking of the notes, I'm gonna say for the top and the mid, basically for the first 5 to 6 hours, just overwhelming honey, basically, and it's definitely the richest, the thickest, the most authentic honey I've ever smelled. I won't say this is the best honey fragrance period I have ever smelled, but just the scent of honey, this is the best honey I have ever smelled, if that makes sense. Um, so for the notes that you get besides honey, I would say I've gotten a little bit different on my skin because I've worn it a few times. Sometimes the raspberry, and you get like a raspberry aftertaste. But again, like just imagine the raspberry is just so drenched in honey that it's just an aftertaste of the raspberry. And I know a lot of people say that they get cherry Jolly Ranchers out of this, and I wish I got that because I do not, because I have worn this before and I've gotten no cherries. But when I do get the cherry kind of smell, it's that almond cherry kind of thing. So it's like an almond extract that kind of smells like cherry, I think it is. So just like an almond cherry, and it's very harsh. And I will say some people consider this like a tobacco-based fragrance, which I don't agree with, but because the tobacco for me is very light, and the tobacco adds to that almond, that cherry almond. It basically makes it a little harsh, that note. And the only thing I can think to compare it to, and it might be because I just wore it recently, would be like Tonka Imperiale from Guerlain or whatever. You know, that has that. I definitely don't think of that as a tobacco-based fragrance either, but that just has like a. It's not unpleasant, but it's just harsh and it leaves like an aftertaste in your mouth. Do you know what I mean? That cherry almond and that just a little bit of tobacco that makes it. You'll get like an aftertaste in your mouth. Again, not unpleasant, but it's harsh, right? And I don't get that all the time because when I get more raspberry, I don't get that cherry almond smell. Okay, so those kind of like differ. And you know, there's I smell a little bit of coriander probably, and sometimes I get a little bit of the florals actually. And this can get a little bit strange because when I mentioned picking up dirt, there's kind of a imagine I'm not sure what kind of flower it is. I'm just thinking about like a we have some flowers outside, right? And sometimes you get like a outdoorsy kind of almost you can like it's not like the honey isn't animalistic, but it's definitely outdoorsy, and you can almost even like smell just like the scent of like mud or some plants, florals in the air. And when I get that, and again, I don't get that all the time either, but that can be a little. I don't think it's sexy. I'll just say that it's a little unpleasant, and that's deeper into the fragrance when you're trying to enjoy it more yourself. So thankfully, I don't always get that, but those are basically that's generally what I get from the top. I'll either get, you know, a little bit of raspberry. If I don't get the raspberry, you know, maybe some tobacco, coriander. I'll get the cherry almond, harsh tobacco, just a little pinch of it, which kind of reminds me of Tonka Imperiale. Now, for the dry down, thankfully, a lot of people say this is like a powder bomb. I actually don't get the powderness until the very end of the fragrance. So, thankfully, I don't get that. So, it's definitely strange, like I said, because you get a fresh blast after the end, which usually you think of something invigorating you at the top and then the fragrance settles down. This is actually the total opposite on my skin. So you get just a baby wipe smell. So honey and baby wipes, and it's not bad, but you know, it tingles your nose, and it's a little strange because I know a lot of people consider this like a very sexy thing, alone time kind of thing, and it just tingles my nose too much at the end to think about something like that. Like I'll get into that a little bit more later though too. But so the baby, you know, this also has like a lot of supposedly vanilla and benzoin in it. So that's like two vanilla smells, obviously. So, but I actually don't get a lot of vanilla in this. The only time I can get any vanilla out of this is if I tell myself it's vanilla at the very end, and you know, I gotta fight with that baby wipe smell. So if I fight with the baby wipes to get through that, I can get a fresh vanilla, and it's all right. But again, I'm telling myself it's vanilla, so it's a little. I'm fighting for that. So that's basically what I get out of it. Longevity and protection. Protection's all right. Longevity's good. Um, it's not. I can only compare it. Well, I can compare it to a few others from the house as well, but it's nothing like Love, which just blasts off my skin for quite a few hours. You know what I mean? But it's decent. I will say on the term, this is just like my perspective on what is sexy and what is not sexy. Again, this I don't really consider this very sexy, honestly. I would actually say that Straight to Heaven actually is more sexy than this, I think. Just my opinion, you know what I mean? Might be my skin. I mean, it's definitely a nice smell, but for the first part of it, as long as I don't get that dirt kind of outdoor floral kind of thing, it's not as bad. But let's just say when I'm thinking of something as being like sexy or you know snuggly and that kind of thing, I'm just thinking of something I can like bury my nose in. You know what I mean? It's like very relaxing and all that kind of stuff. So as long as I don't get that outdoors kind of smell, whatever that dirt is at the beginning, not super snuggly or anything, but it's all right. And then for the final part of it, the baby wipe, I just think it tingles your nose too much. Like it's not, thankfully the baby wipe smell does nose fatigue fairly easily, so you can fight that, like I said earlier, to get a different kind of scent. But um, it tingles your nose. It's a little too fresh and invigorating to be sexual. Like I definitely, again, I'm just thinking because obviously this is in the fragrance community. It's considered an aphrodisiac, I guess, right? Like people enjoy it, right? I have a lot of other fragrances I use when I'm thinking or doing something like that, right? I mean, I just think it tingles your nose too much. It's like it's not soothing or relaxing. I just don't get that kind of like a lot of other fragrances for me personally. You can just smell and sometimes you're like, man, I smell so fucking good right now. Do you know what I mean? Like this smells so good. And that never did it for me. You know what I mean? For me, this was basically like, wow, that honey is just amazing. You know what I mean? But I didn't get that smile that didn't come to me. It's like, man, this is so fucking good. Do you know what I mean? It didn't make me do that personally, right? I haven't worn this a lot. Again, this is more almost an impression. I have been complimented on it, and I've also been told it smelled like baby wipes as well during the end. So, what is it? Does it remind me of anything? Some people say tobacco vanilla. I don't think this smells anything like that whatsoever. Totally lost on me. A lot of people again consider this tobacco. There's some tobacco, I guess, but I wouldn't even consider this. I wouldn't even put that in there. You know what I mean? Granted, I will say this does remind me of Pure Havana a lot, but that's just because which I think I like Pure Havana more. But granted, Pure Havana only does okay on compliments for me personally. But I enjoy myself enjoys Pure Havana a lot, and that's definitely way more tobacco, that kind of cigar kind of smell. Which is really that's a really nice one. I think that one is more. I don't know if it's sexy, but it's definitely more snuggly than this, in my opinion. Um, so it reminds me of Pure Havana, although the tobacco isn't even remotely close. Again, kind of reminds me of Tonka Imperiale when I get that cherry almond harshness with the tobacco. Again, I'm saying the word harsh a lot and I'm not trying to say it's enjoyable, but it's a very harsh cherry almond kind of tobacco smell, and it's all right. Tonka Imperiale is all right, but I don't think those are particularly. I don't think of getting down to those. But you know what I mean? This is unisex. It might smell better on a girl. Um, so I do enjoy this. Like I said, this is one of the three I've thought about, maybe purchasing. I mean, so it is enjoyable. Price wise, this is a lot of money though. It's basically to get into that whole caduce, I don't have to do this for any other videos. This is about 250 bucks for a 50 ml, right? And it comes with a box. I'm sure everyone has seen it. Personally, my opinion of that, I think it's kind of cool and kind of cute, but it's also kind of silly and corny. It's very novelty, and for me personally, I don't need that. I mean, it's kind of cute, you know what I mean? But it's very novelty, and I know the whole idea is that you can actually get refills, but the refill itself is also 150 bucks. So that's also quite a bit, you know what I mean? So price wise, I mean, if the regular thing was 150 bucks, I think it'd be better. But again, that's me because I think the bottle is kind of novelty. It's just kind of neat. Like if that was like a limited edition thing, that's kind of what that is to me. I actually will say though, I actually think the travel size spray is actually really cool. Like it's a really sleek kind of design, little black rectangle, nice magnetic cap, flips on, screws on, or kind of screws on rectangly. I actually think that thing is really cool looking for me personally. I like the simple kind of things, the whole black box, you know what I mean? And again, it's not 100 ml, it's 50 ml, so it's pretty expensive, guys. So, yeah, other than that, I'm not sure what to say about it. Again, that's not to say that it like smells like pure Havana per se, but the honey and the Tonka Imperial, that kind of thing. The dry down, I can't think of anything that smells like offhand, but I think that's the hardest part that makes me thinking about purchasing it because it's very that fresh blast. at the end. It's kind of backwards. And generally, I like fragrances at the end, but this is a fragrance that I actually like the first part of it way more than the end. And thankfully for me, though, it does last a good 5 to 6 hours the few times I've worn this. So that's pretty good. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get into a little bit more fragrance reviews. That's my thing. I think it's a definite try. It's pretty good. Again, we'll see. So that's it. Again, trying to keep my channel active. I'm gonna start doing this a little bit more. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. I think that's the same thing. Do whatever you want, I guess. Thanks. The end.